Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. So happy to have each and every one of you back here today. Super excited. We've got a first today on the show. We've got a guest from Ethiopia. So I'm super excited about that. We have Samrawit Moges. She's the founder and CEO of Travel Ethiopia. Samrawit, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Thank you very much, and delighted to be in your podcast.
It's going to be super exciting. Like I just mentioned, you're the first guest that we've had on the show from Ethiopia, and we're definitely going to talk about Ethiopia. We can't not talk about Ethiopia, of course, but I'm also really fascinated just to hear your story, kind of figure out how you got from where you were to where you are now, because where you are now is pretty impressive. You've done a lot. And before we dig into your background, let's share with our listeners, what is Travel Ethiopia? What do you do? Maybe, just a couple minutes about what do you do and who do you work with and how do you change lives?
Well, Travel Ethiopia was established in 1994. Used to work for the government before that. That was during the communist regime. And then in 1994, through the really encouragement of my late husband, Thomas Matanovich, I established Travel Ethiopia. We were a very limited employees within the company. And my main goal is working on the empowerment of women. And we are the first company to hire female guides. So we are known for this in the empowerment and also having females not only as a guide, but also as a tour consultants. So Travel Ethiopia is mainly known for this. And we are receiving clients from all over the world, where we are taking our clients within Ethiopia, taking them all over the country. As you know, Ethiopia is a very big country where tourists cannot visit Ethiopia in one time due to the diversity of the attraction. Visitors are coming repeatedly. And I don't know how much you know about Ethiopia, but we claim that Ethiopia to be the origin of coffee, the origin of mankind. So Ethiopia is a very unique country, and Ethiopia is the only African country that has never been colonized.
Wow. You mentioned a couple things there I was not aware of. But what I hear you saying is it's not one of those places you can come on one trip and get the full sample of what Ethiopia has to offer. So you've got a lot of repeats and returns. People come back, it sounds like?
Correct. Correct.
Very cool. And do you work mostly directly with the people that want to come visit, or are you working with tour operators in other countries that set up tours and then you guys handle the logistics and provide the actual service, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah, we work both ways. We are, those people who got our contacts definitely will communicate with us individually. And at the same time, we do have agents that we are working with all over the world.
Sure. Where do most of your clients come from?
Well, before COVID, let me tell you briefly that, of course, the entire world has been affected by COVID. But after COVID, there is internal conflicts within the country, mainly. So the main clients we were having was from the Northern America, but that number has a little bit, not more than that, declined. But it's not only America. We are working with Europe, African countries, Asian, name it.
Okay, very cool.
I do want to learn a little bit more. I don't know how much we want to go into the politics and internal conflicts and things in Ethiopia, but you mentioned it, and it sounds like your business has really shifted because of that. And anybody listening to this, maybe they're in North America and they heard you say that, and they're like, "Oh, maybe we should. Is there something we don't know?" So let's touch on that real quick. What should travelers from North America expect in Ethiopia now as opposed to before COVID?
Jason, let me ask you one thing.
Yeah, please.
Which part of the world right now is secured? Tell me.
Well, I'm in Mexico right now, and you've heard the news about what happened in Mexico a month ago or so.
Yeah.
My family in the U.S. is like, "Oh, well, maybe you shouldn't be in Mexico." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, look what's going on in the U.S."
Exactly.
I'm with you completely.
Yeah, the entire world has changed a lot. It's always, people always concentrate on what's going on in Africa, But for me, wherever you go right now, it is not secured. But Ethiopia is a country that is totally different from most African countries, particularly the East African countries, because it's not only wildlife. We have culture, cultural tours, historical sites, and again, a scientific tour where we still have an active volcano in Ethiopia where people are visiting. So there is Bali National Park full of wildlife. That's why I said that Ethiopia cannot be visited in one trip, because people maximum might spend like 10 days. And 10 days will not cover the entire country. That's why we are having a repeated client. So, and one thing we should not forget about Ethiopia is we have one of the best airlines in the world, Ethiopian Airlines, that connects Africa. Yeah, that is the main advantage also we are having. Yes, right now we do have 90% are transit passengers.
What do you mean by that? 90% transit?
Most tourists are not staying in the country. Ethiopia is a hub.
Okay,
and
got it.
People will pass by, but it is just because they don't have the knowledge of being able even to stay in these 2 nights, 3 nights, where they will be able to visit fantastic sites within just Addis Ababa. That's the capital city of the country.
Happy you brought that up. And there's a few things that came up for me. One is just Africa. For most, I shouldn't say most, I don't know, I don't want to put a number on it, but a lot of people that live in North America just have no concept for what Africa is, as a whole, much less Ethiopia. So it seems like you've got maybe, I would think, a couple challenges. One is just getting people to open up to the idea of going to Africa, and then appreciating, well, where in Africa? Why Ethiopia? There's not a lot of super exciting positive press about Africa in North America. We only tend to hear about the things that are going wrong, and then we forget how incredibly large Africa is. So we kind of group it all together. And then, with Ethiopia, very few people, learn much about Ethiopia, about all the cool things. Maybe in school they learned that, civilization started there, or maybe if they're into coffee, they might know something about it. But I'm just curious, how do you overcome that with the U.S. market? How do either you and your company, or just the entire country, the tourism industry in Ethiopia, how do you get that message out?
The world has changed. We are in the era of social media, technology. If you Google about Ethiopia, you will be able to get quite significant information, right? So, as we are in the era of technology, people need to Google. This is as easy as it is. So,
well, yes, but that's if somebody if the idea pops into their head, because they're not going to go Google it unless they see something or they have a reason to do it. And maybe that is through social media as well. If, companies like yourself and other tour operators in Ethiopia or any of the countries in Africa need to get that message out to people so that people will say, oh, Ethiopia, I had no idea there was cool stuff to do there. And then they go to Google. but you got to get them
Yeah.
to Google, right?
One thing that I agree is that we haven't promoted our country as it should be. Because if you ask any American where to go to, they say safari. And what comes to their mind is Kenya.
Yeah.
So
What do you think
I
Kenya's
totally
done
agree.
differently?
Well, they promote their country very well. And they have make known their country to the world. So I totally agree that Ethiopia need to work on promoting the country. This is the main thing, the least that we can do about Ethiopia, to make known to others.
I wonder if you're willing to go this direction with me as somebody that grew up in North America at a time when I was most impressionable. What I saw of Ethiopia was on the news, the TV, it involved drought, starvation, hunger. And I know you know this, it's kind of the elephant in the room. And I actually spoke to my mother the other day and I said, oh, I spoke with a nice woman from Ethiopia. She's going to come on the show. And my mom was clueless. She's like,
about Ethiopia?
Do people go to Ethiopia? They have tourism in Ethiopia, and I'm a world traveler. I've been around. I've been to Africa. I've not been to Ethiopia. But my mom was kind of a litmus test for what is the typical American. And I say American meaning, somebody that lives in the US. You ask them, what do they know about Ethiopia? And those are the images that pop into their head, unless they've been. So I don't know if there's a question there, but I suspect that's something you've been aware of and been dealing with in your marketing to, especially the US market. Maybe do other parts of the world see Ethiopia differently? Do they have different kind of biases as opposed to people in North America? Do you know?
No, as you said, when people think of Ethiopia, what comes to their mind is the drought, the hunger, poverty. But those people who read, most of our clients are high-end clients that read before they come to the country. They have a reason to come. For example, they might come for the covenant in Aksum, the Ark of the Covenant in Aksum. They might come to Lalibela. So these are people who are aware, and these are people who really are educating themselves or know about a country. But as you said, majority knows the poverty of Ethiopia, very unfortunately. Starbucks, you drink coffee, right? Where does that coffee come from? Ethiopia. But they say, where is Ethiopia?
Yeah.
I think it is also our homework, and we have to promote. One thing that I tell you is, as a tour operators, we are taking part in various trade fairs. And it's the tour operators who really promote the country in the past and now. So we do have a big homework to work on promoting the country. One of the things maybe is through the embassies, the Ethiopian embassies, wherever they are located, are promoting the country. But if you ask about Ethiopian Airlines is very well known because they do promote Ethiopian Airlines. They do have office all over the world. If they don't have an office, they have a representative. One of the things maybe that we need to work on is having an office North America or Europe. This will allow us to promote Ethiopia.
I'm curious, do you feel that Ethiopian Airlines does a good job of promoting Ethiopia? I mean, they do a good job of promoting themselves. Yes. They connect a lot of places in Africa. But if you're on an Ethiopian Airlines flight, is it like their stuff on the plane or in their marketing about, instead of just passing through on your way to some other place, you should stop and get off? Do you feel like they do a good job? And I know they might be listening.
No, they do. They have a video show in flights. They have it, the in-flight magazine. No, Ethiopian Airlines is really an incredible airline. More than that, they are promoting Ethiopia very, very well.
Very, very cool.
And if you are in the flights, the way you are treated is amazing.
That makes a big difference. I've been on a lot of different airlines, And when I get on maybe Singapore Airlines, I think they do a really good job as well. Some of them you just get on, you're like, I had no interest in necessarily going to Singapore, but wow, they seem to do a really good job. And the people are so friendly and outgoing. And it's like, kind of makes me think, oh, maybe I should go there. And then I've been on other airlines, and I won't mention any names, where I'm like, these people do not seem very happy. Many of the airlines that operate in the United States might be a good example. Like, if I'd never been to the United States and I got on a typical flight on one of their airlines, I might think, I don't know if I want to go. But, it's, so it is important.
No, for example, I have experienced it also in flights within Europe or the US. You have to pay for what you are drinking. You have to pay for what you are eating. But Ethiopian Airlines, even within the domestic flight that's taking like 2 hours, 1 hour, you are treated. You are treated. And I wish you make time and come to Ethiopia and see.
I would love to, yeah.
Not only Ethiopia, but the airline itself, you will be impressed. And Ethiopian Airlines do you know that during the COVID time, when many airlines shut down, Ethiopian Airlines was the only flight that used cargo, and they were flying all over the world, while most airlines went down economically. Ethiopian Airlines rises because they converted the passenger flight into the cargo, and they were serving the entire world. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. And here's the thing. I mean, realistically, we've been chatting for 15 minutes or so, and I've learned more about not just facts about Ethiopia, but just this conversation with you is like, it's opening up a lot of ideas and possibilities. And that, I guess where I'm going with that is, that's what needs to happen. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we're having this conversation. So other people that it's not on their radar can listen to listen to this conversation and get inspired to go do something, because that's what the name of the show is Big World Made Small. It's like, I want to connect people. I want to get people out there, because, if we can get one person to go to Ethiopia and they're going to come back, because they listen to this conversation and they're going to come back, wow, I went to Ethiopia, or they're going to post it on social media and their friends are going to be like, wow, Ethiopia? I didn't even know they had tourism there. Like if they're like my mom.
I know.
And then it opens them up to it. And pretty soon, when you, it's called I think like the reticular activating system, the part of your brain that starts to pick up on things, you notice things. So now anybody that's listening to this conversation is all of a sudden going to start seeing things popping up on social media about Ethiopia, or they're going to meet people from Ethiopia. So that's cool.
Let me tell you one other thing, Jason. I'm also involved in agriculture. We have a farm that's 20 kilometers from Addis, and we grew vegetables on the 15 hectare and flowers. I have a Dutch partners working with.
Okay.
During COVID time, that was the most productive time we had, because Ethiopian Airlines was the only flight, and most African countries were not able to export their products because the airline closed. But with Ethiopia, that was the time where the flower industry or any exporter has, flourished. So Ethiopian Airlines has its own history, still growing very, very well. And I'm proud to have
I can tell.
an amazing airline.
Yeah, that's...
So I want you to come and see Ethiopia using Ethiopian Airlines.
Okay, that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
Because it's been on my radar much more than most people from North America. But even then, I recognize that, it's not the first country's name that pops up when I think of Africa. I love Africa. I've been a few times, and, what I've seen, but it's a big country. It's a big continent. It's not a big country. You touched on something that I think is important, and that's working with the other tour operators or travel agents and people like that, because if you can reach them, if you've got a large tour operator based in the US that's sending a lot of people to a lot of different places, if you can connect with them and they start offering, or maybe they are already offering, but they maybe emphasize their trips to Ethiopia, I feel like, I guess I'm saying, if I travel with a company, I don't want to mention any names. There's a lot of names. But if I've been traveling with them already and then I get an email from them saying, oh, hey, we're doing this cool, 10-day trip in Ethiopia and you should go with us, or we're doing these custom itineraries to Ethiopia, somebody might respond to that. And that's where they get the idea of Ethiopia. Maybe they never thought about it, but now they get that idea. Where if an operator in Ethiopia is trying to put that message out and get it directly to the consumers, that's a tough nut to crack, I think they would say. Because of course you're promoting Ethiopia. You own Travel Ethiopia. You live there. Of course you're going to talk about how great it is. But when I've got a tour operator that I already trust, based in the US or Europe or something like that, that's telling me how great Ethiopia is, it takes away some of that psychological burden about going. What do you think? I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling.
The number of people that travel entirely in the world is increasing from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, people are traveling. Not the current problem that we are having, the war in Iraq. That is a different thing. But people are traveling. And at the same time, those travelers need new destinations.
Mm-hmm.
There are repeated clients going to, like we said, Singapore, name it, India. But people would like to have a new destination. And I strongly believe that Ethiopia should be one of the countries that need to be visited. Because, as I said, I don't know if you know about the historical sites where we are having number of churches. And do you know that we have like 13 sites that is registered by UNESCO, the country's attraction.
Wow, okay.
And if you are interested in wildlife, we have endemic animals like the Mount Nyala, where you will not find anywhere else but only Ethiopia. Walia ibex, you will not find anywhere in the world but only in Ethiopia. You know what makes Ethiopia totally different from any other country is that it is not only wildlife, it is not historical, it is cultural, scenery. So it's a combination of many, many things. Have you ever heard about Dalol?
No.
Dalol? Yeah. So we have attraction that is not found anywhere else but only in Ethiopia. And my message to the tour operators, whether this is in America or in Europe, they need to see the country. Of course, you cannot sell any country without seeing it. You have to scout it, right? So they need to come and see Ethiopia. But in the meantime, they have to Google and see what Ethiopia has. Right now, the mice is increasing amazingly in the country because many conferences are taking place in Ethiopia because we do have facilities for conferences.
And I want to just touch on that real quick because you use the term mice, and a lot of tour operators know what that means. A lot of our listeners know what that means. But it's meetings, incentive travel, conferences, and events, right? Is that what it stands for?
Correct.
I believe so.
Correct.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that for anybody that's listening and maybe got thrown off. I don't know. But do you think that is the mice business mostly coming from? Where was it mostly coming from?
All
is
over
it
the
European
world.
or
all over
all
the
over?
World.
All over. Okay.
All over the world. Because, there is so far number of conferences took place. And now we do have one of the biggest conference facility that just opened in the capital city. We do have Ethiopian Airlines, for example, has its own hotel.
Okay.
And where there are also facilities for conferences. So in terms of a conference in Ethiopia, it has increased a lot. And the outcome also is exquisite.
I'm curious about, there's a lot of things I'm curious about. And let's start with, I don't normally do this on the show, but because oftentimes I'm having conversations with people that work in areas that are pretty well known, and I don't want to just discuss a bunch of logistical things, but because I think Ethiopia is super interesting to me, and some people don't know as much about it. A long way of saying, what's the weather like?
That was the thing that I wanted to mention. Ethiopia has one of the most beautiful weather in the world. We do have rainy season, for example. Our rainy season is from June to the beginning of September. There is a shower of rain, but after some time, you will see sun coming out. We don't have snow. In the evening, during the day, it is warm. In the evenings, might be a little bit chilly, but the weather itself is one of the attraction for many visitors.
I thought it might be, because I did have a conversation with somebody separate from the podcast, and he was kind of telling me a little bit about the elevation, because the capital's at pretty high elevation, isn't it? Or
Yes,
am I confused?
2,500, 2,700. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so that's about the same as Quito, I think, in the Andes or so. I mean, it's pretty high, right? So it's not necessarily hot. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is, if people like me, maybe their visions that they remember of seeing Ethiopia in the past during drought was hot and it just looked, a lot of the videos and pictures I saw just kind of looked hot and dry and a little bit miserable. But I got the impression that that's not really what it's like, especially now. That was a drought, but.
People take Ethiopia to be a desert. Some people say, after they come, say, we didn't expect such kind of weather. That's what they say. Or during our communication, when we discuss, they will say, but it is very warm, right? No. Especially
that's why I wanted to bring
come.
This up.
Yeah.
I thought that was the case. Yeah,
we have one. And one thing, let me tell you this. It has a different calendar year. For example, we are in the year 2018, okay? Where, this is, and where you are in 2025, 26.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes us totally different. Our Christmas is different. We celebrate the Orthodox Christmas on January 7, not December 25. For example,
Wow.
my company, the slogan is Travel Ethiopia and be 7 years younger, because of the calendar year. Not only that, we do have 30, we call ourselves as 13 months of sunshine, because each month have 30 days. There is a leap year, sometimes 6, sometimes 5. So we say we have 13 months of sunshine.
Cool.
And we do have our alphabet. We do have our number. So that is what it makes us totally different.
Does it? My mind goes immediately to, it's a unique thing. It's a fun thing to discuss, because I didn't know that. And then my mind jumps to, does that make business difficult when you're dealing with, people outside of Ethiopia? Do you get a lot of confusion if you're, mentioning dates and emails and back and forth with operators in other countries, or you just figured it out, I'm sure?
No. What we do is we totally communicate in a European calendar. Yeah.
So any tour operators out there, anybody in the U.S. that was thinking, oh, I'd love to send people to Ethiopia, but oh my gosh, I'm going to be so confused by the dates and the numbers.
No. We communicate that, but they do know that we have our Christmas is different, Epiphany celebration. There are different kind of celebration that takes place, and they do book their clients for that festival. But the communication is entirely based on European calendar. We don't create confusion.
That's good. That's probably a good choice whoever made that choice to do that. That's a good idea. Let's talk about things like language and communication. We're kind of already touching on that. I know embarrassingly little. But a lot of people probably know embarrassingly little as well. So is it easy for somebody from the U.S. to communicate there? Do a lot of people speak English? Do all of them? I have no idea.
No, people communicate.
I'm embarrassed to ask.
No.
Ask.
You don't have to. No. This is a very normal question. People working in the hotels, even in the street, people will talk to you. So people speak English, definitely. That is the main foreign language that we use is English. And people are educated also in schools.
Mm-hmm.
We speak. You'll find people speaking English, very well English.
Do they? So I've traveled enough, and I find some places, like the kids especially, just really get excited to have an opportunity to practice English with somebody that looks like maybe they're from the US or Europe or something. And I've had, little kids come up to me and like, hello, and they just want to talk.
Yeah. Yes.
And they would
Absolutely.
never talk to me. They would never talk to me anywhere else. But, it's like they just want to talk, and it's so endearing. It sounds like that
It
happens
is
there as
same
well.
here. Same here. Yeah. Hello. Hi. How are you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
It
that.
is normal. People, yeah, they'd like to talk to foreigners. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's very cool. Young people in Ethiopia, is it common for them to even think about a career in tourism? Probably hospitality, but as far as like, do kids there grow up thinking, I want to be a guide someday? I mean, is that a common thought, or I'd love to just touch on that a little bit about, the opportunities for people, because you specifically mentioned helping get opportunities for women to get into this business that is not always, it's kind of a traditionally male dominated field, honestly. So let's talk about becoming a guide in Ethiopia. Is that what has to happen? Is that is that considered a real job there?
Yes, definitely. Particularly people who lives in the historical site or on the sites where tourists frequently go, like Bahar Dar, Gondar, Lalibela, and elsewhere. Just like you said, from their childhood, they started to, to acquaint themselves with the tourist, and they will be carried away to involve themselves in tourism. If you go to Lalibela, the number of guides available in that area is amazing, because Lalibela is one of the highlight of the country and the most visited place as a tourist attraction. So guiding is a profession, by the way. We do have also schools where guides or tour consultants are trained. Now, tourism is taking over in terms of creating opportunities, job opportunities for many. The hotels, there are a number of hotels. The number of hotels in Ethiopia is growing, particularly in the capital city. So accordingly, young people are involved in tourism. And it's a good business, by the way. Being a guide is not an easy thing, especially now.
I know. Yeah.
So, yeah, there are.
Well,
there are. And
the reason-
they do have also associations, guide association within the capital city, also in each and every attractions in the destinations. So they are solidified and, they are growing themselves.
Okay. Because there's cultural differences, obviously, between different parts of the world. And some parts of the world, to be a guide is like, ooh, you're a guide. I mean, the community really respects that and looks up to that. And the guides sometimes kind of know it. I remember I lived in Belize for a while managing a lodge, and our fishing guides were like celebrities. They at the end of the week, they'd put on their nice shoes and their gold chains and they'd go back to town, and people were like, ooh, they really respected them and looked up to them. And then there's other communities and cultures where, well, I remember when I told my family I wanted to be a fishing guide, they didn't think that was that cool. It wasn't like, wow, that's a great job. It was like, Jason, what are you doing? But it sounds like in Ethiopia, that's a respected role in the community, especially in a tourism area around tourist sites, right?
I told you I used to work for the government. Immediately after I graduated from the university, I used to work for the government known as the National Tour Operation. At that time, there were female guides, but the female guides weren't able to conduct their job because of, the way the society was looking at them was in a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
The moment that I started my company, the main reason why I hired a female guide is, one, there is no one as much as a female guide that knows the community and is able to explain, marriage, births, name it. So now the number of female guide is a bit limited, but right now there is no distinction between a female and a male. Previously, they were discriminated. But as I said, being a female guide, I'm not saying that they are more knowledgeable than the male. But for example, if a female guide talks to you about births, wedding. It is, you will take it from the female rather than the male. So it is, for me, it is very, very important increasing the female guides. And of course, we do have very knowledgeable male as well as female guides. And I hope one of these days you will have one of the guides, a female and a male guide in your podcast.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think it's such an important part of the conversation. And there is differences. I've had guests on the show that, similar to yourself, they're all female guides, or their whole company is females, and some of them only all their clients are females. It's just a different dynamic. And I think it's really cool. And so for the example of a female guide, like you were talking about, they're going to discuss things, different subjects. But in my opinion, or from my perspective, female guides can be really good at connecting. Not that guys aren't. Men can be as well. But women tend to be a little bit more connected to the community. They are probably more likely to know every woman that lives within a half a mile of where they live, because they're all just connected. They're interconnected. And I think it's a generalization, but guys sometimes are into things and women are sometimes into people. So, I think it's a totally different experience. So I'm happy we brought that up.
Jason, let me tell you this. This is a female guide. Right now, she lives in Colorado. Her name is Mahalit. She is an amazing guide. A couple of times she told me her experience. She said, if a couple came to visit, she said she will never dare to connect with the male.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I totally put my concentration on the female, on the wife or girlfriend, name it. And then she said, once I feel confident that she's okay talking to the partner, she will do that. The thing is, the psychology of women is totally different. Totally different. So, and the ability to solve problem. Of course, the male also are, male guides are also do that. But the female, to solve the problem is instantly. Right there, she has solved the problem.
Yep. I get that. The guide that you mentioned that lives in Colorado, is she
right now,
from Ethiopia?
From Ethiopia.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And you know what that brings up? Like, I remember when I was guiding, I was guiding fishermen mostly. I've done a few other things, but spent most of my time guiding fishermen. And oftentimes a couple would join us. And it was what you described, like, oh, that's different. That's a different perspective than what I had. Because oftentimes it's very stressful, I think, for a woman to be in a fishing boat with two men, one that she's married to and one that she doesn't know, that thinks he knows everything about fishing or whatever. And it can be very intimidating for the woman in that situation, where if there was a female guide, I actually think everybody'd have more fun. So, and I don't know if that's the same when you're with a small group in Ethiopia or whatever, but it's just a totally different dynamic.
By the way, it is not tourism. The role of women is extraordinary, because women are very detailed. As you know, the work in tourism is that minor mistakes brings a major one. I have, my colleagues most of them are, the tour consultants are female, and their work is extraordinary and meticulous.
Yeah. Well, and I do believe, again, this is a generalization, I think women are generally a little bit better at picking up clues from people. Emotional, like they're more likely to see a frown on somebody's face or appreciate that maybe this person in the group is unhappy about something or is lost, confused, or whatever, where guys sometimes just, okay, let's go. And if you can't keep up, you can't keep up, where women are just so much better at, hey, is everything okay?
Psychology.
Or, figuring things out and picking up the clues that maybe somebody in the group needs to go to the bathroom. And the male guides, you have to say, hey, Jason, my wife needs to go to the bathroom, where a female guide would be like, hey, this looks like this is a good time to take a quick little break. And if anybody needs to, there's a bathroom right there. They're much more likely to do that than men in general. Again, generalization.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
very cool.
This guide I told you, Mahalet, she also said, sometimes I look at them and said, I haven't seen you drinking water. Don't you need to have a drink? Yeah. But there are male guides as well who are very careful with their clients.
Of course. Yes, of course. And I like to think I was as well. But the drinking water thing is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
The guys, you have to be around women or guide for a while before you start to realize that most women don't drink enough water because they don't want to have to go to the bathroom.
I know. Yeah. That is true. That is true.
And I finally figured out when I was guiding in the morning, as I would pull her aside and I would explain the plan. I was like, look, we're going to have plenty of places to stop. I'm going to point those out as we go. I'm going to check in with you. So trust me, you will be able to use a toilet. So please drink water. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm really happy you told me that.
Right.
Water's a thing. I want to you mentioned that you worked for the government and then started the business, but I want to make sure we take some time to really kind of understand your story. We've talked a lot about Ethiopia and guiding and all this really cool stuff, but how the heck did we get to this point? So tell us about your childhood. Tell us about all the crazy trauma stuff that happened that caused you to get into tourism. We shouldn't call it trauma, but what was going on when you were a young girl?
My father used to be a police general during the emperor time, and my mother.
You said police general?
Yes.
Okay.
That was during the emperor time, and my mother was a dedicated housewife. Mm-hmm. And due to the work of my father, we were moving from one city to the other. And do you know how many schools I joined in my life? 14 schools. Between
14?
high school and elementary. The only institution that I completed in a stable way was the Addis Ababa University. So my parents believed in education. There is no discrimination between a man, a female, and a male. And we had a very supportive family. We lost my father when we were very young. It was my mother who brought us. And my mother was also into very much education and religion. So to make it short, when I joined the Addis Ababa University, at that time, even if you have very good grades, you were not able to select which faculty you want to join. So my first choice was to be a lawyer. But they put me in foreign language and literature where I studied journalism. And when I graduated, it was during the communist regime, and working as a journalist was not an easy job because you have to follow whatever the government is telling you.
Yeah,
and
right.
the other thing
is not quite journalism, it's just repeating.
And what makes also very unique is when I graduated from the university at that time, we have to draw a lottery in order to join the office that we are working. By chance, I was able to join the Ethiopian Tourism Commission. At that time, it was a commission. And they told me to be a teacher at the institute where there is a training school for tourism. I said, no, I will not work as a teacher because I didn't take any education course. The only thing that I did is a real journalism. So they assigned me to this company, the National Tour Operation. As I said, it was a communist regime, and it used to be a sole tour operator in the country. All other private tour operators were nationalized. So I joined the National Tour Operation, and luckily I had the most wonderful bosses where it was just like a training school for me, where I was able to get the exposure in tourism and attended many conferences. I was able to travel, and they were my mentors. So when in 1991, when there was a government change, private ownership was allowed, and I was able to establish my company, Travel Ethiopia. But I did it through my late husband, Thomas Matanovic. Originally, he is from Serbia, but he was more Ethiopian than myself. He speaks
What do you,
about
wait a minute.
9
What do you mean
languages.
by that?
Because he came to Ethiopia with his parents, his father, mother, and his brother, when he was 13. And the emperor gave them, the family, the Ethiopian citizenship. You know, he speaks Amharic, Orominya, and Anuak. I only speak one language, local language, and 6 other European languages. Thomas was a force behind me to establish this company. You know, Thomas is a person who comes up with an amazing ideas, but he was not the implementer. So I was the one who was implementing and
That's
running the show.
usually how it works. If you've got a good couple that work well together, or business partners, or just in many areas of life, you have an idea person and then you have a doing person that actually makes it happen. Because if you rely on the idea person to do it, it's probably not going to get done. In my experience, I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think, Jason, I tell you, working together as a couple is not easy. Not at all.
I know.
Not
I've done
easy.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things that really helped is Thomas was not only working in the office, but he used to take VIP clients along with him. And he has an amazing knowledge about the country, to be honest. As I said, he's more Ethiopian than he's white, but he is a real Ethiopian that loves his country. And the combination really helped us because he speaks, you know, as I said, 6 foreign languages, and he was able to accompany German clients, French clients, name it. So that has really helped the company to grow.
Well, I imagine he was involved in, outreach to different tour operators in these different countries, maybe trade shows. I can imagine having that language skill and the knowledge of Ethiopia. What a great combination for growing a business. Yeah, I get that. So how many siblings did you have growing up? Like, was it a big family?
Yes, we are 8 in the family.
8. Wow. 8 kids?
8. No, wow. This is not my kid. No, I said I have 4 sisters.
Right.
And
there
3 brothers.
There were 8 kids in the family.
Correct.
In your family.
Correct.
Okay. Wow. That's...
And I lost recently my mother. I lost recently my brother. But it's a family that really, very, very, very close and support each other.
Yeah. Are any of your siblings working in tourism or have an interest in it?
No. I have a sister. I have a sister who runs her own business. Do you know what our staple food? Injera. Have you ever tried it?
Is it similar to... is it ugali that they eat
No.
in Kenya? Okay.
No. It is like, the Indians have chapati. We have injera. It's a big, it looks like a kind of big pancake. It is made out of a gluten-free cereal.
I do know it. Yeah. I've actually been to an Ethiopian restaurant a couple times. It was very, I like that. Yeah, it's good.
Then, my sister is exporting that product to Europe and the US. And
let's share with our listeners. Let's discuss that a little bit more with our listeners, because actually, I remember going the first time to an Ethiopian restaurant in Manhattan, and it was a different experience. Probably not as authentic as it is in Ethiopia. I know that, but I think it said something about the culture. So can you describe what this is, how it's served, and how it's enjoyed, to give people kind of a glimpse into Ethiopian culture?
If we talk about the food, the variety of the food that we have is uncountable, to be honest.
We'll have to do a few more episodes.
Yeah, each region has got its own cultural food. Each region has got its own music, dance.
Okay.
That is the main thing. If you talk about the injera, right now, the powder is, I think it is available in Europe, also in America, because it is a gluten-free product,
Hmm.
where many diabetes are able to eat it.
Mm.
So it's getting very popular in the entire. People are using it not to make it injera, but they use it for pancake and other things to make it. But
Is it a
preparation,
grain?
yeah, it
Is
is
it a
cereal.
grain
It's a
or
green,
a
yes,
cereal?
very
Okay. Yeah. All right.
tiny cereal. It looks like a chia seed.
Okay.
That is the kind of thing. But the preparation of injera is it's not easy. We have got our own kind of pan that we make injera, and we use different kind of sauce to eat that. We have vegetarian, vegan sauce. We have meat, and Ethiopians enjoy also meat so much. Like tartar sauce, people eat raw meat. Right now, it's a fasting season in Ethiopia for Easter. We fast two solid months, and immediately for Easter, you see a lot of cows slaughtered, name it. So that is the time where people eat a lot of meats. But unless you come, I want you, after we finish this, just Google and
Book
see
my flight. Go
how
to
Ethiopia,
Ethiopian Airlines. Book a flight today. I would love it. I would. Yeah.
and see the kind of food that we are using. I mean, it's one thing, like what makes us very similar with the Indians is the Indians use their fingers to eat, right?
Yeah. I
The
was
same
hoping you were
thing.
going to touch on that.
Yeah,
Because it
we
is
are
a special
eating.
part. Yeah.
Yeah, we use our own fingers to eat. It is something extraordinary where you don't find anywhere else in the world. The way we eat it, there is a feeding time where we feed each other. We call it gursha. I wish you come and
Yeah.
experience it yourself.
It sounds much better experience to go there and have that with you. The restaurant in New
Absolutely.
York was fun. The impression it left on me was just that, there's a big platter with the pancake and, the toppings on a bunch of different toppings. And you sit there with your group and you all eat from the same plate with your hands.
Exactly.
I don't remember feeding each other. See, I missed that. That's what I missed by not
Yeah,
actually
that is the
going
real
there.
tradition. Yeah.
Right. But and my kids were pretty young, and it was fun for all of us to sit there and do that. That was a new experience for us. But more importantly, just a new experience is there's a reason. This is a cultural thing. This is talk about sharing a meal. Like,
You see?
that's on a different level, right? When you sit down and you're dipping in and you take a piece of the pancake, wrap it around some meat, and you're sitting there eating it with your hand and you're doing it together. It's just a different experience than, you go to a restaurant in the States and everybody orders their own thing, and maybe there's some sharing going on, but it says something about the culture, and I love that.
I would like to share one important thing, as you said, sharing.
Please.
If you go to one of the poorest person house, you will not come out without having something. If that person has a piece of bread, he will offer you. For me, the cultural shock was that, in Europe or in America, you go to some place, people will not invite you. They will have their own meal, eating by themselves, but you will simply look at them. In Ethiopia, it is a must that you offer people. Let us eat together. So sharing in Ethiopia is one of the most important culture. Name it, from the high class to the low. The poorest of the poor will offer you something. You will not leave his or her house without having a cup of coffee or a piece of bread. So sharing in Ethiopia, meal sharing is very, very traditional and normal. If you don't do that, wow, people will be upset.
What's wrong with you?
Absolutely.
And that was, and I think that's what made the impression when I had that experience was it was
the
so
plot
clear.
of three eating
It was
together.
it was so clear that it brings you all together around one plate or whatever you want to platter. I don't know. I'm sure there's a term for it, but it's so anyway, I appreciate you sharing that. Kind of on a related note about sharing, you had a pretty large family. You mentioned that your father passed when you were pretty young, and you mentioned that your mother really was a housewife, but took care of the family, and you moved quite a bit. So I want to dig a little bit deeper into that, because I imagine that must have been very challenging for your mother.
Absolutely. She was maybe 40 or 39 years old when my father passed away, and she was a housewife where she didn't have exposure, simply managing the house. But my mother is a very, very special person. I remember when they were invited to different places when my father was alive, and she said they hired a teacher for her to learn English, because whenever she is meeting foreigners, she was not able to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
She is, as much as she is religious, she also really is into education, changing herself. But one of the main challenges she faced was, my father passed away naturally, but immediately after the year when the communist regime took over, I don't know how much you know, about 60 people were executed.
Okay.
Yeah, the ministers.
Wow.
And luckily, my father was not part of it. But my father, just a year before he passed away, he came up with a book. He wrote a history of the police, the entire Ethiopian police history. And immediately, my mother was taken to the court. They created something. And that was the first exposure for her to be in the court with the lawyer, but she won the case.
Help me understand. She ended up, when the communist regime took over, they had charges against her because of a book your father wrote?
The book, yes. They said, the communist regime is totally against the emperor time, the kingdom,
Sure.
So here, my father wrote the history of the Polish history, and it is related to the emperor. It is related to the previous government. So this is not something that are interesting them. So they created a story and they took her to the court, but she won the case. That was the time, that was the time where she really came out to the world, to the real world, and to challenge. Yeah. One thing that I really, really also appreciate about my mom, as you said, it was a very difficult time because all our properties were nationalized. She has to depend on the pension of my father, because they used to have a number of houses where they were able to, to economically use it. But as it was nationalized, everything was nationalized. I remember after some time, when I joined the university, and I was in second year. But I see my mother struggle, My sisters were very young, and I decided to join Ethiopian Airlines to be a flight attendant. So I went through the process, and I told my mom, I thought that I'm going to have a big hug. You know what? It was not to my expectation. She said, "What? You are going to quit your education?" I told her, she said, "No. Just proceed. What makes me happy is seeing you graduated from the university." And thanks to her, it is
stuck with it.
It is, yes. My current achievement is because of my mom. Not only on this education, but she really took care of my kids. I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, Christian and Hannah. Christian, studied animal science. He graduated from Edinburgh College. Right now, he is working for African Park in South Sudan.
Wow. Okay.
And is working for her PhD. She has joined the University of Colorado, and she's studying pharmacy.
So, if you had gone to be a flight attendant for an airline that you clearly love, we've discussed that a few times.
Yes.
But if you had dropped out of school to be a flight attendant, do you think
I wouldn't be in tourism.
Yeah. No. Yeah, right?
Thanks to my mom.
Yeah. But it's so interesting because I had a lot of conversations on the show with people that were doing something in school they hated, and they did drop out, and it worked out really well for them, and their parents encouraged them along the way. So we don't know, but we don't know. Always, But I'm happy where I am now. Yeah, I know. I can see that. I'm happy for you. That's your mom sounds very special. The way you mentioned something got me curious because you've mentioned that your mom was very religious or that religion was important. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But then you said something about it was, although she was very religious, she was also felt that education was very important. And then I wonder if there's a conflict. I'm just curious why you mention religion in the same sentence as education. Was there some sort of challenge or conflict that made that stand out in your mind?
No. One thing before I jump into what you just mentioned, I would like you to know Ethiopia is a country where religion is very important. You know, we have a major two religions, Christianity and Muslim. But amazingly, Muslims as well as Christians live in this country harmoniously.
Great. That's important. I'm happy to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, each respect their religion. I only mention about the historical sites of the attractions, but we do have many attractions of the Muslim as well. We do have Negash in the northern part of the country. We do have the Sophomore. So the attractions, as much as there are religious Christianity, the Muslims as well are a number of attractions that exist in the country. In the previous time, not in our time, but in the previous time, if people are religious, like most parents would like their children to serve the church rather than going to education.
Right.
But
Okay.
this doesn't exist anymore. People can follow any religion, but educate themselves as well.
Great. I appreciate. Yeah. So now what I'm hearing you saying, even though traditionally at that time, religious people tended to want their kids to focus on supporting the church, but my mom, although she was very religious, she believed that we should go to school and get an education.
Yeah,
Is
no,
that
what I'm saying,
kind
it's
of-
not, yes, but what I'm saying is in the previous time, like, I don't know, 100 years,
Oh, okay.
people who serve, parents who are religious would like their children to be in the church rather than going to educate themselves. But this has changed totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very cool. I get that. When the communist regime took over, what did that do to religion for a while? Did they manage to, because in some communist societies, like the religion is no longer allowed type of thing. What was that like in Ethiopia? Because it's such an important thing in Ethiopia.
No right for religion. You don't have any right for religion, particularly if there were, religious people, for example, are party member. They cannot attend church. They cannot baptize their children. So religion at that time was a taboo. Where
You said if they're a party member. What does
if
that
they
mean?
belong to the party.
But was that an option? Could you just not be a party member, or is everybody in the country a party? What is that?
I was not a party member.
Okay.
You don't have to be. If you want, you can be a party member. But sometimes they might impose on you to be a party member.
Okay. So if you're a business leader or somebody they think is important.
Every government,
Maybe not every leader, but
yeah, every government has its own party, right? So they will try to attract people to as many people as possible to join that party. But during the communist regime, there is a special class that you will take, and you will not be promoted unless you are a party. There are privileges that you get when you are a party member. Yeah.
Got it. As opposed to somebody that's just kind of off doing their thing and doesn't play along and doesn't want to participate. They maybe don't have to be in the party, but if they want to be successful.
Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned that your mom had the pension from your father. Did that go away when the communists took over?
No. The pension was there, yeah. What goes away at that time, people were having big houses where they rented as an income, but everything was nationalized.
Okay.
You can imagine.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
That was tough.
Yeah.
And, it was at that time, the brain drain in Ethiopia started. Many educated people flee and started going to Europe or America. where we lost so many intellectuals.
I'll just ask you, did it occur to you at any point to leave?
Not me, because my sister, she is my elder sister. Her name is Gannet. She went to Djibouti from Dredoa. She walked to Djibouti on foot.
Okay.
And it is from there where she had asylum and went to the States. My cousins, many people have left the country. The main reason that I wasn't able to leave was because of my mom. Because, she was very young when my father passed away, and a very beautiful lady. She could have married, and she really sacrificed her life for us. So I have to pay back. And I stayed.
What a beautiful tribute. Wow. You've got quite a story. This has been a fascinating conversation. We've covered a lot of things, and I want to make sure that we don't miss anything. So what did I forget to ask you? What do you wish that we could discuss a little bit more before we wrap up, or share with our audience about Ethiopian Airlines, Ethiopia, or your family?
No, the thing is, one, I wanted the world to know that Ethiopia is not only poverty. Ethiopia is not only drought. That incident was in the 70s. And you remember Jonathan Dimbilbe, the one who exposed the situation to the world. I'm not saying that Ethiopia is not a poor country. We are one of the poorest countries in the world. Things are changing. It's not only poverty, but Ethiopia, particularly in the tourism sector, stands out in many, many ways. And what I said earlier, we have to promote our country in any way we can, maybe by also having offices like Ethiopian Airlines, because one of the success for Ethiopian Airlines is having offices all over the world. And I believe that Ethiopia is a destination that needs to be visited. As I said earlier, there is no country that we can say it's 100% safe, right?
Yeah.
So just have a taste of Ethiopia. If you are a transit passenger, stay just for one night and see what Ethiopia offers. This is the message that I really wanted the world to know, that let them put Ethiopia their next destination for a visit, and they will have a wow factor. This is what I can say.
Very cool. I'm so happy we had this conversation. So now I get to share this with my mom.
Yeah, please do.
See, Mom, I told you.
And show her also some videos.
Yeah. You have represented your country so well on this program. Just a fascinating conversation. And I'm so happy. For anybody that is listening to this and doesn't get to see Samrawit's face on the screen, I think you can hear the passion in her voice, but take a moment, go over and watch the video version of this. The look on her face is just so energizing, and the smile. I mean, like right now, find this moment, go watch this moment. She's smiling ear to ear, and it just makes me want to go share food with her and culture and everything else. So, Samrawit, thank you so much. This was a fascinating conversation, and let's do it again sometime.
Thank you very much for having me and giving me this chance. And my wish is for you to come and see it yourself.
Okay, so when I show up on your doorstep, don't forget you invited me, okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it. It's going to be fascinating.
Likewise.
All right, we'll
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Sure. Bye.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.